Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode here at Tribal Trades, the daily show coming out from the great state of Florida. One hell of a drug, and certainly want to welcome you to the channel wherever you are tuning in from around the world. Thanks for watching. We're going to talk about, is the Bitcoin low for October, and if it is, what does that mean? Has Bitcoin got some pullback in it, or are we going to push on from here to the end of the month and see a new higher high for October? It's kind of like asking, am I cheering for the New York Yankees or am I cheering for the Los Angeles Dodgers? Because we do have the World Series of Baseball tonight, but certainly, are we going up or are we going down is the question. And we're going to look at the charts in a moment and talk about that and some other news, some other Bitcoin news that broke just in the last little bit. Now, before we do that, we cannot forget, for all those who regularly watch the show, smash that like. That really does help get this channel out to more people and does help support the channel. I do really appreciate all the people that leave kind words and encouragement in the comments below. That really means a lot. And certainly I do answer all the questions that get asked there. I do get back to those as quickly as I am able to. We have the cheat sheet below in the description. It's the link right at the top, and you can actually click on that. It'll open up the Google Doc. I've shared that. That's a free resource for my cryptocurrency roadmap. And you can follow along there if you so choose to. Again, this is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. This is for education and entertainment purposes only. Are you not entertained? Said the great Decimus Meridius from the movie Gladiator there. And there are tons of other resources in that cheat sheet, including the Stocks with Josh Discord, and I am in there on a daily basis with the most amazing community in the crypto channel. So if you want to join our community there, you can click below, the link below, and get signed up. There's a couple of plans there. All right, we're going to jump into the news, and the news is good. I can tell you the news is good, because where are we in the Bitcoin cycle? Well, we are here where the green circle is. And months from now, nobody will remember this reaccumulation period. Well, we probably will, but anyway. But everybody will remember the parabolic phase that comes afterwards. You know, there's the parabolic phase. There's the parabolic phase that we did have a bit of a mid-cycle correction, and then we went more parabolic after that. So certainly this is where we are in the cycle right now, waiting for that clear lift off and take off into space there, going to the moon there with Bitcoin. And then certainly here, this is quite bullish, and I'll tell you why, because not many people have mentioned this. We have seen the news about Microsoft, but that's not the most important part of this news. Microsoft have asked shareholders to vote whether to consider investing in Bitcoin, even though they themselves have advised against it. The shareholders are going to get to vote. Well, can you guess who the largest shareholder is? It's none other than BlackRock. And of course, we know BlackRock is very, very bullish for Bitcoin. And I'm going to guess that BlackRock is going to be a big, yeah, baby, let's go for that. So we could see that. And the reason this is starting to happen, I did do a video, I mentioned this a couple of times over the last few weeks, is because Bitcoin is now going to be moved to fair accounting, which means the fair value of Bitcoin is going to go on the balance sheets of these companies when their earnings come in. And as you know, everybody looks forward to those earnings reports that come out, and usually the price will go up or down based on those earnings. Previously, Bitcoin was not under fair accounting, which didn't make sense whatsoever, which means it wasn't reported. You know, if they bought Bitcoin for 40,000, it went up to 70,000 within the reporting period, they would have to report it as 40,000, even though the price was at 70,000. Absolute insanity. And it really, really kept companies away from investing in Bitcoin for that reason. Only two, Microsoft and sorry, not Microsoft, soon Microsoft, we hope, MicroStrategy and Tesla. But we could see that all about to change come December 2024 when Bitcoin now is under fair accounting. So that could be a monumental month and shift. And maybe the big takeoff will be in December when that news comes, or if that news breaks earlier than that. Check out. I just think there going to be another major company that's looked at MicroStrategy and seen what has happened to their share price and what has happened as a result of having Bitcoin on the balance, and will they jump in? And that could start a domino effect of many other companies following, and then Bitcoin price really accelerating from there. Okay. And then certainly finishing up here, I did get asked about liquidations, and I do mention this from time to time on the channel. We do have a Bitcoin liquidation heat map, 48 hours here, and it comes from CoinGlass, and there's a free resource, although you can get the paid version for this. And it is showing here, as you can see, liquidations are more high to the upside than they are to the downside. And where do you get this? You just simply go to CoinGlass over here, and you get this liquidation heat map over here. There we are as it loads. And you can see I've got it on the 24-hour, and on the 24-hour, which is a shorter time frame, you can see that there's a little bit more to the downside at 67,100, and then a little bit more darker at 67 here. And we'll look at that on the charts at the moment. But if you switch to the 48-hour one here, and then we'll go to the weekly, you can see it's the same thing at about 67,000 there. There's not as much liquidity to the upside. But if you look at it on the weekly time frame, actually there is more liquidity to the upside. What does that mean? That maybe in the short term, we're going to come down and tag that 67. It's not showing there on the longer time frame. You can see it's a lot lighter yellow. And then you can see up here, we have a lot more. So wherever you see the most bright yellow, and you can see here, most bright yellow, look, it comes and gets it. Oh, it got all the liquidity. Now we come to the downside. We grab this liquidity here, and then we come and grab this liquidity here that's here. And now we're starting to get more yellow here to the upside. What does that actually mean? That means the amount of people that are going to get liquidated if price moves to that level, because people are borrowing money on leverage, 3x, 5x, 10x, and it's generally not so much those, but it's the really high stakes gamblers that are going 50x and 75x, and yeah, you better believe it, 100x they are borrowing. And if the price moves one way, if they borrow 100x to go long, then if price moves a little bit to the downside, they're going to get liquidated. And if they go 100x short and price moves to the upside, they're going to get 100% liquidated. Why does that matter? And I've explained this a few times over the last few weeks here, but I still am getting some questions about it. When people who bet that the market is going to go long and borrow money against it, when that bet goes against them, it's like betting on black or red, and they bet on long. And when it goes low and they bet long, they lose their money. And when they lose their money or they get stopped out, it's like a spot sale on Bitcoin, and it actually pushes the price down, and then you might hit the 75x level and it can cascade down. That's why we see these big moves. People here get liquidated until there's not much more to be liquidated. There's no leverage there. And then you see these fast moves to the upside as well. Liquidations has a big part to play in the market. And it's also true on the flip side that if you bet to go short and you use high leverage and you gamble and you lose that gamble and you get liquidated and you lose all your money, or you get stopped out of the position. And of course, when you get stopped out, you lose a bit of money as well. And that's like a spot buy for Bitcoin, and it drives the price up. And again, a little move to drive the price up can then liquidate the people who've borrowed 75% and then 50x, not 75%, 75 times, 75x, 50 times, 25, and it can really move up quite quickly. So although I don't use it as the sole basis, if we were to try to interpret this, could we say, well, maybe on the shorter time frame here, we have liquidations that are more prominent to the downside here at 67, and maybe we'll see price come down here and liquidate these here before then moving up a little bit later to then go and take these liquidations here on the weekly time frame. Here it will load, but we did see it before up here at 70,000. Let's keep an eye on that, and let's see if that's what happens over the next few days to a week on the liquidations there. It will be very, very interesting. And just remember, we are in October, which is generally bullish and generally the fourth quarter. And I do want to remind you that the October low, whenever the October low has come in a halving year, it has ended up being the lowest price of Bitcoin for the rest of the year. So if October 10th, which Bitcoin hit around 58,900, if that ends up being the low for October, if we finish October and that does end up being the low for October, which looks, there's a strong likelihood that that is the case, then historically, Bitcoin has never gone below that level for the remainder of the year. Not only that an 8 out of 13 times in its entire history, that has ended up being the case. But I certainly do look, we've talked about how September, the first week of September, the low was always in a halving year. What happened? It was in. That's what happened. We talked about October, how the low was already always in by the 12th of October, and it was in by the 10th of October. It looks as though that will have been the case. Now we're looking at October and saying the high in a halving year has been the 29th, the 31st. Of course, we had that one in 2012 where the high came in on the 4th. Obviously, that's not going to be the case here. So now we're looking at that 29th and the 31st from the last two halving cycles in 2016 and 2020. So if history repeats, then maybe we do see another high. And if we look at this liquidation data, is it possible we have a little bit more of a drop to the downside, down at that $67,000, $66,000 level, and before we drive up and create a newer high and take these liquidations level here just above 70,000. And lo and behold, this is the target that I've had for Bitcoin. What's the target I've been talking about Bitcoin for the last week or so? Is that we need to take out the 70,100. And lo and behold, this liquidation level is at 70,121. You can't make this stuff up, people. You can't make it up. And we're going to look now at the charts very quickly as we wrap this up for Bitcoin. So why have I stated that 70,100 is the level? Because that is the September high. That is the September high. Oh, sorry. That is no. So first of all, I got ahead of myself there. So why have I said it? It's because it's the tribal trades trend line strikes again, people. It's struggling, isn't it? This trend line has been in play since I have launched this channel back in May, and you can see the tribal trades trend line has guided you through this entire reaccumulated process. It's showing you where to buy and it's showing you where to sell. Very simply, you can see if you bought where the tribal trades trend line was, you would have bought at the low. If you sold or close to the low, if you sold at the tribal trades trend line, you would have made some good money. And of course, I've got two tribal trades trend line there. So if you bought or sold at either one, you had done very well over the last 4-5 months here in this bull run. But as you can see here, the last time we touched here was back here in July, and it reached a peak of 70,079. So I've rounded it up to 70,100. So for me to properly breach this here, we need a higher high on this trend line here of 70,100. That's what I'm looking for. That's the level that I'm looking to break. And therefore now we have truly broken this descending, it's going down, this trend line here that we need to break above there. And we should see, once we have that moment and we have a break and a successful retest of that 70,100 level, so we break through the level, we come back and we hit that level of 70,100, we should be off to the races from there. And how long is that going to take? Well, how long is a piece of string, really? We can see that we at some point, these two are going to converge. I have to stretch this out a little bit further here, and we are going to come to a point of decision at some point. It cannot go from forever there. We are going to come, but this will take us through, at least through to the end of the year. We could continue in here and be prepared for that. We could have, but we may break out a bit sooner than that. Just, it doesn't mean that we have to come all the way to this end of the range here. Wait till this wedge breaks out to the upside or to the downside, and the most likelihood scenario is that it does break to the upside, and certainly history does point towards that kind of situation happening with Bitcoin. But that doesn't mean that we can't come down and tag this liquidity that's down here at 67, as we saw on the heat map, those liquidation levels, and that liquidating those longs might push us back down to 66,100 or even lower, down to 64,000 or at 63,500, the 50-day moving average. We're about to get a golden cross here, by the way, people, and that might be enough, the catalyst, because people are going to say, oh, we're about to have a golden cross. And a lot of retail may not understand that it's a lagging indicator. We've already had this big move, and they'll jump in. The place you should have jumped in is when you saw it coming back here, that we were going to have some point of a golden cross, and people jumped in here at around the lower 50,000s. And then as we broke through here at 59,000, that was the place to get in the move. A lot of people are going to get in the move as we see this cross happen here. And we are only a very short time away from that happening. It could happen within the next week for Bitcoin. By the end of the month, we could have that bullish cross happen here, and then everybody's going to post about it and talk about it. People are going to say, oh, historically, when we've had the cross, look what's happened with Bitcoin, and it's always gone quite parabolic. If we look back to October in the same year in 2023, and actually if you go back into 2020, we're not going to do that today just for the sake of time, because I have done it many times over the last few weeks. If you've been watching this channel, when it has gone up, then Bitcoin has taken off and gone into the parabolic phase. And so we are very close to this happening. We are very close to this cross happening. You know, people are going to talk about it on YouTube. They're going to talk about it on Twitter. Oh, here, look, we've got the golden cross. And then they're going to go, oh, look at all the other times that the golden cross has happened and Bitcoin has gone parabolic in a halving year, and last year when Bitcoin took off, when we had that golden cross. And so certainly now not the time to be in panic or worry about the market coming down. Here's the way that I'll answer all these questions. Yes, we may see some more downside before we go parabolic, but in my opinion, that's only going to lead to more buying opportunities, okay? And we may not. We may have this little drawdown to the 67,000 level where there's liquidations off, and then we take off. Wouldn't it be ironic if we took off on the 31st of October, right where the two tribal trades trend line meet? Because as soon as those tribal trades trend line meets, there is a marriage. There is a marriage to become one, and we have the one tribal trades trend line and not the two. Okay, so that's what I'm looking for, and I've given you the levels to the downside. The 200 EMA on the daily is at about 60,900, almost 61. The 200 simple moving average is at 62. The 200 simple moving average is at 63. We have more support here at 64 and at 65. And the 66,500 level, which is September's high. And we really have not breached that. I really should put a little more line in the sand there. I'm going to add a trend line there at the end of the show. I won't do it there, but I certainly will add it there. And we'll see if this does hold. Is it holds? Is the September high going to hold? That is what we're going to see. So far, it has held, and we are above it. And so we'll see what shakes out over the next 24 to 48 hours to see if those liquidations get tagged at 67. And really, that's not very far away from price is. So that is a strong likelihood of happening. And then are we going to see push up to those liquidations that are 70,000, sitting at 70,000 and just over 100? Those were the liquidation levels that we saw. That will breach us above the 70,100 level. That's what I'm looking for, and I will be posting about that in the Discord as well if I see that happen or when that happens there. Okay, well, we're going to wrap it up for today, and as always, until the next episode, which is the altcoin show coming up in a couple of hours, happy trading.